First, second, third. I guess I'm third. Can you hear me? How am I coming in? All right, very good. So, as we always do, we'll just wait. Wow. It's weird to see me in like HD because I haven't used my HD webcam in a while. So, or my Yeti. So, we'll wait a couple minutes, have some people come in, and then we'll get started. Hello, Christine. Welcome. Welcome, Andrew. Welcome, Bella and Gautam. All right. It's not even 8 o'clock yet. Decided I figured I'd start a little bit earlier to see if we can get people in earlier. Hello, Larry. Welcome. This is the first Dhammapalooza in what? Let me see. 1, 2, 3. Wow, has it really been that long? Has it really been almost a month since Dhammapalooza? Where was it? When was I in Colorado? No, it has been. Maybe it's been 3 weeks. 2 or 3 weeks since the last Dhammapalooza. Yeah, the 11th. Wow, it has been almost a month since the last Dhammapalooza. It's been a long time. I got to get back on my streaming game, huh? All right, I think we're good. I think we can get started. Started with some chanting. There's the Magaseka chanting book. I think we'll chant an Abhayagiri chant, or, well, really a forest, a Thai forest chant, a forest sangha, I think they call it. So we'll be on page 265. And we'll do it like they do it in the Thai forest. Hello, P. Gurgles the Gorilla. Ireland. Welcome. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Yatavari vaha pura paripurenti sagarang. Just as rivers full of water entirely fill up the sea. Evameva ito dinnang petanang upakappati. So will what's here been given bring blessings to departed spirits. Ichitang patitang tunghang. May all your hopes and all your longings, kippang eva samidjatu, come true in no long time. Sabbe purentu sankappa. May all your wishes be fulfilled. Chando pannaraso yata. Like on the 15th day, the moon. Mani jyotiraso yata. Or like a bright and shining gem. Sabitio viva jantu. May all misfortunes be avoided. Sabarogo vinasatu. May all illness be dispelled. Mate bhavatantarayo. May you never meet with dangers. Sukhi dikayuko bhava. May you be happy and live long. Abhivadana silissa nichang buddha pachayano. For those who are respectful, who always honor the elders. Chattaro dhamma vadanti ayuvano sukhang balang. 4 are the qualities which will increase: life, beauty, happiness, and strength. Bhavatu sabba mangalang. May every blessing come to be. Rakantu sabba devata. And all good spirits guard you well. Sabba buddha nubhavena. Through the power of all the Buddhas. Sada sotte bhavantu te. May you always be at ease. Bhavatu sabba mangalang. Rakantu sabba devata. Sabba dhamma nubhavena. Through the power of all the dhammas. Sada sotte bhavantu te. May you always be at ease. Bhavatu sabba mangalang rakantu sabba devata sabba sangha nubhavena. Through the power of all the sanghas. Sada sotti bhavantu te. May you always be at ease. Now that's something that some of you may be familiar with. This is something that is often chanted when when a layperson gives some kind of dana to monastics. That's a very, very common chant for, basically kind of what they call a blessing chant for laity when they come and bring dana to the monastics. Welcome, Dallas. Welcome, Robert. So, friends, we have the first Dhammapalooza in almost a month. And so welcome to Dhammapalooza. I'm glad that we're back in the saddle again doing Dhammapalooza. I'm here at Empty Cloud Monastery in New Jersey. This is where I'm going to be for the next 2 months. So for the next 2 months, Dhammapalooza should be good every Monday. Unfortunately, Morning Monastery Experience is probably not going to happen. It might. I'm not quite sure. I might be able to maybe do 2 or 3 days a week. We'll see what happens. But all my normal regular streaming should continue now without any interruptions, at least for the next couple months. So, friends, tonight we have Dhammapalooza, our 2-hour festival of Dhamma, where we do a variety of Dhamma-related things. We did some chanting. Later on, we'll do some meditation, and in between, who knows what we'll do, because each Dhammapalooza is different. Each Dhammapalooza is guided by the community, the Maggaseka community that comes together every Monday night for 2 hours to be together in Dhamma. And so those of you who have been coming to these, you know the drill. Right now, what I'm going to be doing as I'm talking, if you have any questions you'd like me to answer, any topics, Buddhist topics that you'd want me to talk about, give a little Dhamma talk, any discussions you'd like the community to have, anything like that you'd like to bring up, please do so. I like to have the community kind of decide how this goes. So every Dhammapalooza is different. Not one Dhammapalooza has been the same. I mean, we've had a bunch of Q&A Dhammapaloozas, but all the questions in them have been different, right? And it's all depends on you guys. So whatever you guys want to do, and if nobody has any questions or topics or anything they'd like to discuss, well, then we can read suttas, or maybe there maybe a topic will come to me, and I'll decide that I want to talk on a topic. We'll see what happens. But I'd like to give this time for you guys to decide. So I'll for the next couple of minutes. I'll keep an eye on the chat, and we'll see what happens. And so for you guys, also, some of you might be new in the chat. While we're doing this Dhammapalooza, if you are talking to each other in the chat, you're not interrupting me. You're not bothering me, right? This is the Mungaseki community. What we like to do is have people come together in the chat. If you scroll up, you see people saying hello to each other, like a community. Hey, how you doing? Well, right? That's a good thing. And if you have Dhamma discussions in the chat, also fine. No problem. It's good. It's good for the community. So we do have some questions already. Welcome, Douse. Did I say welcome, Douse? Maybe. Wow. Some interesting stuff already. Wow. Very good. Not bad for the first time back in a while. So P. Gurgel asked a question. When having decided on taking the monastic path, what hindered and what supported you? I think the biggest hindrance for me was like a poor monastic atmosphere for newer monastics. I think that's at Bhavana Society, that was really kind of what hindered me the most. It really is not a good place for new monks. And for more senior monks, it's not a bad place. But for training and things like that, and a lot of work and a lot of responsibility, it wasn't I think that's really what hindered me the most. That was a pretty big hindrance that I wouldn't have had to deal with, say, if I ordained it like a Bayagiri or something like that, which is a bit more supportive and more of a training monastery and have a training atmosphere. So this is why I always recommend going to a place like a Bayagiri, going to a place like Temple Forest, like these Thai forest places in the Ajahn Chah lineage that are very, very good at training monastics, and especially young guys. It's very good for young guys to be in communities like that because there's a lots of support. I mean, I was older, so it wasn't as bad, but I still would have liked to have the support that I saw when I stayed at a week at a Bayagiri. That makes a huge difference. But that's not my path. That's not how it worked out, for better or worse. But that's what I would say. In terms of being hindered. In terms of what supported me. The Dhamma. The Dhamma and my desire to go forth is really what was the biggest support for me. I mean, there was lots of lay people who were very supportive as well. That was good. But my own zeal for the practice, my own desire to go forth, my own desire for awakening was really what supported me the most. Now, now that I'm a nomad monk on my own, I feel very, very grateful and supported by the people who support me. Now it's a little different. I feel very, very, if it wasn't for the people that support me, and it's not even that there's a lot of people that provide a lot of support. I'm pretty cheap. Well, I'm just one monk. I only eat the one meal a day. So, I'm pretty healthy. So thankfully, I'm pretty cheap right now. If I was expensive, it would be worse. But yeah. So and developing good monastic kalyanamitas. That's what I'm trying to do for good support. All right. Sean says, I'm been having a lot of pleasant feelings arise the past few days, and I've been enjoying them and contemplating, but I'm wondering if there's a wiser way to engage with these feelings. What are you contemplating? That's the important thing. What are you contemplating about these feelings? Are you contemplating that they're going to go away? Right? Are you contemplating that if you attach to them, when they go away, you're going to suffer? That's the important thing, right? How are you contemplating? How are you investigating these pleasant feelings? How are you investigating how the pleasant feeling affects your mind and your intentions and your impulses, right? How are you investigating that? Understanding that. Right? How are you understanding how the pleasant feeling arises? What are the causes and conditions that led to that pleasant feeling arise? And then when it starts to cease, try to observe the causes and conditions that led to that pleasant feeling ceases. That's important. I more contemplate with the support of these feelings. What exactly do you mean by the support of the feeling? Robert, all right. So you have some questions, but I'm going to address the last one, which is unfortunate since I can see people reading Bante G's books and wanting to ordain there. This is the problem, right? Bante G is one of the top-notch Dhamma teachers in the world. There's no doubt about it. Like if and that was a benefit. I mean, going there for 3 years as a layperson to retreats, and for a while being able to be close to those teachings, but it ended up not being worth it in the end. Like the negatives outweighed the positives. And Bante G doesn't really teach as much as he used to. He was trying to have us do all, like, even one retreat. There was 4-day retreat at Bhavana, and the only two teachers were me and Bante G, and Bante G took one. So not only did I coordinate the whole retreat as I always did, I also taught 3 out of the 4 retreats, 3 out of the 4 days as a junior monastic. Right? Hey, it was good experience, but this is how it goes. Bante G's quite old, and he's trying to retire from a lot of things. So, but no, if yeah, I could never in good conscience recommend anybody ordain there. And I'm not really, I mean, I don't normally speak about this, but it kind of was brought up. Um, so I'm not trying to like, I'm not bad mouthing Bhavana or Bante G. Every monastic has their strengths and weaknesses, right? Lungpor Pasino, the one of the former co-abbots of Abhayagiri, who trained dozens upon dozens of monastics. To be honest, his Dhamma talks are not that great to me. His Dhamma talks, That doesn't do anything for me. But it's obvious to me that he knows how to train monastics, right? It'd be very, very, very rare to have a monastic who knows how to be a good leader, who knows how to give great Dhamma talks, who knows how to train monastics. That's what I'm trying to make myself into. I'm trying to kind of try to be the best of both worlds. Am I going to make it? I don't know. But I do have a lot of training and experience that Bhante didn't have being a monastic since he was 11, right? So I'm hoping to take the best from Bhante, the best from Ajahn Brahm, the best from, all the best from all these wonderful teachers and and try to, improve myself to match those. We'll see. Hopefully if I live long enough, I'll get there. All right. So continuing on. Oh, Sean, so you're saying you feel safer to investigate when it's pleasant as opposed to when it's painful. Okay, I get it. Yeah. The problem is a lot of what's that Joseph Campbell quote? The treasure you seek is in the dark dungeon that you fear to go into, right? Right. There's a lot of wisdom to be learned from pleasant experiences. There's a lot of wisdom to be learned from unpleasant experiences too. Don't fearfully shirk away from the unpleasant experiences. Try to develop courage and patient endurance to stick with those unpleasant feelings as well. Robert says, "Okay, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on guided meditations and meditation apps." 99% of people who give guided meditations, that includes very, very famous monk teachers. 99% of people who give guided meditations are horrible at them. Absolutely horrible. Absolutely horrible. I have very few aversive tendencies, but I've never liked guided meditations. I really have not. And I think because there's an art to them, there's a skill to them. And you have to know kind of when to talk and when. So guided meditations are supposed to be like training wheels on a bike. That's what they are. Right? You're supposed to give enough for the person who's listening to your guided meditation to understand the techniques, understand what to do with the experiences that are arising, and then to shut up and let them experience it so they can put that training to the test. If you're kind of just rambling on the whole half hour or an hour, that's not guided meditations. That's like a guided Dhamma talk, right? Guided meditation should be like training wheels. Okay? And then once you've listened, maybe it takes a couple of guided times to hear the guided meditations. But then once it's done, it's done. You don't need a guided meditation anymore, right? You take the training wheels off and then you practice on your own. That's how it should be. What happens in places like Insight Timer and stuff like that, guided meditations become like a what you call it? What do you call it? Not a consumable. It becomes something you consume, right? It becomes something that you go to sleep with. Oh, I'm going to just listen to this guided meditation to go to sleep. It becomes very kind of like you watch this. Like there's very few monastics on Insight Timer. When I first was asked to join by Insight Timer, there was like one other monastic besides me. Now that I think there's about 5 or 6, which is good because there's thousands of all kinds of wacky lay teachers on Insight Timer. But you see, like almost it's almost like there's this pressure among these like lay teachers to kind of come out. What's the newest? Oh, these are I did all these guided meditations. These are all done. I'm kind of bored with them. What's the newest guided meditation? Guided meditation for peaceful tranquility of world peace in the whatever, right? Like they come up with all these kind of wacky hippie new agey names, right? Like they have to, get in. You have to make sure that you're on top of the guided meditation market. Whereas you go to my page, I have a guided meditation for basically every Buddhist meditation, and that's it. I haven't uploaded a guided meditation there in like 3 years, 4 years, maybe it's been. And still people listen to them and people rate them and people say, thank you, Bhante, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You know. Um, but there's no need to like how many metta meditation, guided meditations do I need to put on there? I don't. One, that's all you need. Well, maybe I think I have two, but you don't need all of these extra like new guided meditation new for 2022. The 2022, like like those video games or whatever, um, or now these like what is this Marvel MCU things where they have to come out with a new movie every year, right? Like when I played video games, there's people like Madden or NBA 2021, much different than 2020 or whatever, right? You have these thoughts, but this is part of what you see um, in this kind of online meditation app thing, and this is not really something that I care much about. But this is, a guided meditation is not meant to go to sleep to. It's not meant to do any of these kind of things. It's meant to learn the technique. And then once you've learned it, you practice it on your own, you do it on your own. That's what it's supposed to be, a guided meditation. But those apps can be beneficial. I'm not denouncing the apps. The apps can be beneficial. Um, but they need to be used in for Buddhist people. I'm not speaking for all the other because it's not just Buddhism on these apps. It's all kinds of practices and religions and stuff on these apps. But for Buddhist people, this is something that we should understand. Thank you. Hello for those who have joined. Welcome. We're just doing, if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat. If you have any topics for a Dhamma talk you'd like me to talk about, I can talk about Buddhist topics. No problem. So you can put all these in the chat. Robert says, on a more personal level, I've noticed a sort of blob of sadness in my chest. It's like I want to cry but can't. Investigate, observe, watch it. It's like you want to cry. You already kind of understand it a little bit, right? A blob of sadness. What is this blob of sadness in your chest? Why has it arisen? Can you see a reason? Can you see a causes and conditions for this blob of sadness? Investigate it. Investigation is the second factor of awakening. Investigation is not often talked about, but this is something that's very important. Investigation is an active thing. Like your question, you're putting a question. Why is this arising? Right? Let me see why this is arising. And then you're trying to investigate it. Like, how is this feeling affecting my mind state? Investigate. Right? It's like you're following clues. It's like you have the little magnifying glass and you're choosing, I'm gonna investigate this feeling. The Buddha wants us to know the gratification, the danger, the escape, how it arises, how it ceases. Right? The causes and conditions for its arriving, the causes and conditions for its ceasing. To know these things very well, pajanati, to know them deeply, experientially, with wisdom. That is how that's satipatthana. That's how you understand. Almost always the answer is investigation. What do I do with this? What do I do with that? How do I do this? Investigate it. You have to know for yourself. First factor of awakening, sati, mindfulness, recollection. When you are mindful of things, you observe things, you see things that you didn't see before. Opportunities arise. For what? For investigation. You get curious. Oh, I didn't recognize this before. Let me investigate that. And when you investigate things, then the third factor of awakening arises. Sati, Dhammavichaya, is investigation of phenomena. And then viraga. No, not viraga. It's a V word, but I'm messing it up. Energy. Why am I messing up energy? I can't think of the V Pali word right now. But anyway, then energy arises. Right? Because you get excited to investigate. There's so many things to investigate in the mind. So many things. You can never get bored. You can never run out of things to investigate. Virya. Thank you. Thank you, Robert. The V's were messing me up. Okay, so going back to Larry's question. Could you talk about the definition of dukkha and what other words behind besides or beyond beyond suffering you find useful to describe it? No words. No English words. The best thing to do is to understand the Buddha's definition of dukkha and then just use the word dukkha. That's what I do. That's the So the Buddha says, what is dukkha? Birth is dukkha. Aging is dukkha. Sorrow, death is dukkha. Sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair is dukkha. Not getting what you want is dukkha. Some people would say getting what you want is dukkha. That the Buddha didn't say that, but it can be suffering as well. I forgot some American playwright maybe or somebody like 100 years ago said the only thing worse than not getting what you want is getting what you want, something like that. But anyway, the same phrases like be careful what you wish for. So anyway, not getting what you want is dukkha. Being separated from people, places, and experiences we love is dukkha. Having to deal with people, places, and experiences we don't love is dukkha. Right? Think about all these things. Old age, sickness, death, sorrow, birth, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair. Not getting what we want. Separation from beloved ones. dealing with things that we don't like. Right? All dukkha. All dukkha. And then the real kicker comes in. This is the real kicker. This is the deeper one. It's harder to understand this one. The Buddha says, in short, the 5 aggregates subject to clinging are dukkha. That's the deeper, more refined one. What are the 5 aggregates subject to clinging? The Buddha is asked, identity, identity. What is identity? And he says the 5 aggregates subject to clinging. What is the burden? The 5 aggregates subject to clinging that is picked up by the person. The Buddha is telling us straight off that this identity, this being that we create, is quite literally the origin of our dukkha. It all flows from there. But this is dukkha, right? And no one English word really works for that. What impacted me on this was if you go to like accesstoinsight.org and you look up dukkha, and like Ajahn Jeff Thanissaro Bhikkhu's, the page where he talks about dukkha, and he says English words that mean dukkha, and it's like 50 words in a paragraph. That's like, oh, that's a lot, right? Because there's a lot more with a lot of these Pali words. One English word doesn't hack it. It just doesn't do it. It doesn't work. So it's better to kind of understand from the teachings what the Buddha means by this word and the definition of the word, and then just use the word. It's easier that way. It helps you understand the teachings better too. So the only other thing I could say about dukkha that I personally like, this is a debated thing. It's not really, I think that some people say this, and I like it. I think it fits well, especially with the burden. And I think it is probably something the Buddha could have meant with it when he uses the word dukkha. But so du means unpleasant, painful. Ka, one of the ways that you can describe ka is to bear, like bearing a heavy weight on your shoulders. So dukkha is that which is difficult to bear. Right? You're carrying the burden. Like this is when I do my guided meditations and I say, like the mighty Atlas who holds the world on his shoulders, so too do you hold your world on your shoulders. You're literally carrying your own suffering. You're carrying your own suffering. And all you need to do is put it down. That's the hardest thing though. Right? So when you think of dukkha as that which is difficult to bear, old age, birth, old age, sickness, death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair, not getting what you want, being separated from loved ones, having to deal with things you don't like. Sounds like a lot of stuff that's difficult to bear, isn't it? That's dukkha. And plus, I mean, I don't know. Personally, I love saying, when you really say dukkha, like that sounds like suffering, doesn't it? It's like dukkha, dukkha. So this is, I just like to use the word dukkha. Oh, Adriana, welcome. It's good to see you. It sounds like a word in Klingon. Yeah, it's funny. All right. So let me go back and make sure that I'm catching all the questions. Amy has a question. Evening Bante question from Amy. Any recommendations on how to break the chain of dependent origination for traumatic experiences that cause emotional flashbacks? So, this is something that I think cognitive behavioral therapy does, right? I think that's what, because what it's doing, like what CBT does is force you to face what happened, right? Like if you're a soldier with PTSD, oftentimes they'll have you like, when you're ready, they'll put you in like these virtual simulations, right? Like of war and things like that. Um, like if you're afraid, if you're agoraphobic or whatever, and you are afraid to go to in elevators, right? Like they'll gradually help try to get you, acclimated to go back into the elevators. Um, I think what happens is that when you have a traumatic experience, in the beginning, your mind is pushing it aside because it's kind of like a survival mechanism, right? But then after, your mind brings you to it, right? Things come back. And what that your mind is telling you there, and I've heard psychologists, a clinical psychologist and things say this too, is what your mind is telling you is like, hey, you need to work on this. Like this is something that needs to be addressed. Right? And humans throughout history have figured out all kinds of ways to address these things. Like you go to the shaman, and the shaman says, okay, you're going to go on a quest. You're going to, do these rituals, right? And so by going on these quests, like that can help heal you, right? Now, today we have cognitive behavioral therapy and such this and such that, these like, therapeutic modalities. But what needs to be done is you need to be able to face that trauma and then integrate it into you in a skillful, positive way. And by this, you mean like one of the ways, and you see this a lot today, like people who claim the title of victim. Right? Maybe you are a victim. Maybe something happened to you, and you're a victim of something from somebody else's malevolence, whatever. You're a victim. Okay. So now what do you do to be able to move forward to a happier, better future? Do you hold on to this identity as victim and use it, right, for various different ways so that like 15 years later, oh, I'm a victim. I'm a victim. Feel sorry for me, blah, 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 blah. Or do you say, yes, you know what? I was a victim. How do I rise above this? How do I become better because of it or in spite of it? Right? How do I take what happened to me and integrate it into me in a way that will help me to live a better life? Right? That's the important thing. Maybe for a couple of years, it's important to kind of have the victim moniker, right? Oh, I had this traumatic experience. But then you integrate it and you become the victor. You become the one who has overcome. Not only overcome, but came out of the other end better. Better for it. And also to be able to help others who have gone through the same experience. I worked Child Protective Services for 8 years. Do you know how many Child Protective Service workers were abused as kids in some way or another? Had some traumatic stuff as kids? Probably a good amount. I knew a bunch. The drug and alcohol counselors that I worked with, who worked with the same clients I worked with. You know how many of those drug and alcohol counselors had drug addictions? A lot. This is how these things go, right? That one of the most common ways to have what happened to you be of benefit is once you are able to overcome it in a skillful and beneficial way, to use that experience for the benefit of others. Right? These are all these different ways that humanity has figured out how to overcome traumatic experiences. If you don't do that, I mean, you can also use meditation to help with that. But if you don't do that, what's going to happen is when you sit down to meditate, what happens is your mind goes into what science now calls the default mode network. Your mind is like, okay, well, they're not doing anything. So now is the time to think about all kinds of things. This is why somebody, maybe they have a traumatic experience as a kid and they repress it. They repress it hard. And then they're 25 and they go on a meditation retreat. And then all of a sudden, all of that stuff comes out. And they get into some serious mental distress, right? Because it was repressed. And once you start meditating, it all starts to come out. It all comes out. One of my good friends who was a cook at Bhavana, who every time I go to California, I at least spend one night with him. He also drove me from Northern California to Southern California last year when I was there. But he's been meditating as long as I have, but he has a lot of childhood trauma. And like I can remember years ago meditating with him at Bhavana in the meditation hall, and all of a sudden he'd just pop up and go out of the hall. And what happened was trauma would, stuff from his past would come up. And he had to stop meditating and go, kind of deal with it, distract from it, whatever. Like that's people who have trauma, it's going to come up. So this is why you need to take whatever steps you can therapeutically, medically, meditatively to deal with that trauma, to healthily and skillfully integrate it into who you are. Once you do that, the chain is broken. Right? The causes and conditions, as you say, the chain of dependent origination for traumatic experiences. Once you do that, there's no flashbacks. Why? The mind is like, it's handled. It's done. It's good. You might even still think about those things every once in a while, but when you do, it doesn't bring trauma anymore because you've done it. Yeah, you've gone through the process. Oh boy, you guys got some good questions. Good Dhamma today. Wow, I'm very happy that Dhammapalooza has come back with a vengeance, with a good Dhamma vengeance. However you want to say it. Very good. You're cutting. Okay, Amy's saying, or James is saying for her, whoever's typing. It's a lot of stuff with my mom coming up. So abuse as a kid, it's such a sudden hijacking my brain. When it comes to stuff like this as well, one of the things that you probably want to work towards is being able to forgive your mother, right? I think a lot of people who go through the process, one of the last things of like finishing out the process is that forgiveness. Being able because forgiveness is not really for the person you're forgiving. I mean, maybe they are trying to be contrite and maybe they, being forgiven would be something that would be helpful for them. But forgiveness is about you. It's about you getting to the point where you are able to let it go. Right? After you've gone through the process, integrating it and skillfully understanding it and moving through it, and you say, you know what? I forgive you. I can let it all go and I can move forward. Adriana, on Thursday, we had at Second Life, the Buddhist Center, we had a woman from Colombia there. I said, "Oh man, Adriana would like to meet you," but we'll see what happens. Okay, going back because I saw another question. Lots of questions. Good stuff today. Dao says the courage to delve into a dark dungeon and patience and restraint to not be lured into the pleasant dungeon. That's a good one. Yeah. All right. Sean says modalities. Yeah, well, good word. Well, I mean, I had to, my job, Child Protective Services, I had to talk to speak, talking with psychologists, with psychiatrists, testifying in court. I've been on the stand for like 4 hours at a time. All these. I've been on the stand testifying in court many, many times. It was part of my job. So when you're around people who use fancy words, you have to use fancy words so that they understand it. I'm not a fancy words kind of guy, but when I need to, I can break out the fancy words. Sean saying, not asking for a medical opinion. I have to be careful with my feelings because I'm bipolar. Most dangerous for me is the upswing. Is there a standout quality to wholesome, pleasant feelings? Oh, yeah. I had a bunch of clients who were bipolar, and that you can do. There, all kinds of stuff can happen during an upswing, legal and illegal, mundane and dangerous. Yeah. um, you know, I think when you have an upswing, when you have like that energy and that happiness and that kind of really observe that, like observe that kind of like that drive, like almost like that fidgetiness to do, like that, like something like it wants to burst out of you in action, right? Try to observe that and observe, like, investigate that feeling, like what it does to your body, right? What it does to your mind, the state of your mind, right? And then reflect on what usually happens when you kind of just allow this manicness to have its own way without any kind of restraint or mindfulness, right? Really to understand, like, oh man, like I know I'm feeling manic and I'm feeling like I want to go out and whatever. I'm doing all these things um, and I mean, I don't know if you shake like I, but I've had clients like it's almost like an energy that wants to just burst out of them, and I was like, just this kind of, but but yeah, like that's what I would say. Is there a standout quality to wholesome, pleasant feelings? The standout quality is the desire to keep experiencing it, the desire to lose yourself in it, right? The desire to want to have it keep going, even though it's starting to fade away. That's the standout quality. That's our craving. Well, Adriana, see if you can make it this Thursday. You can meet her. It was an interesting group on this Thursday. No regular. Well, Douse came, so Douse knew the group, but it was kind of all like it was a really interesting group. Had this weird Hindu kind of Buddhist kind of guy saying all kinds of stuff. Like when people just go off, you know, I just ignore them mostly. Just let them say whatever. But sometimes that happens. All right. Sean's saying, unfortunately, during my upswings, I can't sleep after 4 or 5 days, and I become psychotic and have to go to the hospital. Yeah, I mean that's, it's tough, um, because so many the people that I met bipolar, I met kind of when they were still in their phases. I did meet one woman who finally she's like my age. When I met her, she was my age now. Like I was in my what early 30s, and she was like 45ish. I'm 44. I just turned 44 last 2 weeks ago. Um, and she told me about, and she had the right medication concoct or right cocktail for her that actually kept her stable, right? But she told me about how 20 some odd years of her just going into mental institutions, breaking out of mental institutions, going on, and I mean, I had a client who was a teenage girl, and she would just when she had a manic, she would just disappear for days. Like the mother, nobody knew where she was. She would just go out into the world. It's not an easy thing. It's somebody who's a layperson could say, oh, just find a therapist and find a this and that, and even the mental even good mental health services um, might not be enough. So I can't claim to have any easy answers for you, unfortunately. You can only do your best, man. You can only do your best. Try to use what you learn in Buddhism and what you can get from mental health services to try to do your best to minimize the damage to yourself during these manic phases. And don't be, like the Adriana says, it talks about backsliding, and don't. Oh, my mind is clear. Don't worry about that. It's just, um, honestly, being around as many people with all kinds of various mental health issues, as I did for 8 years, like I wouldn't wish like bipolar or schizophrenia on my worst enemy if I had one. Like it's brutal. It's absolutely brutal. Like, like I can't even imagine how I would handle it. I mean, I guess I would just try to do the best I could, but it's just I saw how it destroys families, and it's a tough thing. All you can do is just have metta and try to do, try to help the person as best as you can, but you can't really do much other than that. I'm glad things are going well, and I hope that continues as long as it can. Adriana has a question on backsliding. Adriana, you've asked this question multiple times. I feel like I'm a bit of a broken record on this. Um, and that's because you haven't learned the lesson because you still have lots of that judgment for yourself, right? we're all like Michael Jackson doing the moonwalk. Like we're the best at backsliding. Going back. That's the way it is. We're masters at backsliding. That's in the suttas, in the Vinaya. The Buddha says, uh, "Do not be masters of backsliding. Be like the good senior monastics who are masters at not backsliding." Right? This is You're just gonna have to expect that you're gonna backslide. Every time you backslide, it's a chance to learn, so that you don't backslide as easily next time. Hey, John, I've been backsliding so much I forgot your answers to my questions. No, it stems from that self meta. It stems from that acceptance that you're gonna backslide, and it's okay. Right? If you really look at yourself, question this. This is what I do. Are you sincerely trying to practice, or are you full of crap and Mara's just playing with you? You just don't really want to practice, but you're just kind of acting it out, right? Ask yourself that question. See what's the reality is. Right? When I ask myself that question, the answer is that I'm trying to sincerely practice. I might screw up, right? I might go through phases where I'm just not in it. But I'm not full of it. Right? I can see that about myself. I'm sincere. Right? But I'm going to backslide. It's okay. It's the way it is. What can I learn from this backslide? So that my backsliding is not as long. Maybe this time I'm backsliding 10 feet. What can I learn so that next time I only backslide 9 feet? And then the next time 8 feet. The next time 7 feet. Or hell, even instead of I backslid 10 feet this time, what can I learn so I backslide only 9 feet 8 inches this next time? Even if it has to be only in inches. Next time, 9 feet 7 inches, 9 feet 6 inches, 9 feet 5 inches. So I backslide less. Right? What can I do? How do I learn? What can I investigate? What can I understand so that I backslide less next time? What else can you do? What else can you do? Just give up? Screw it. I'm not even going to do this practice anymore. What are you going to do? Whip yourself? This used to be a Catholic monastery. I'm trying to see if there's any, flagellations. I don't see any flagellators around here. What are you going to do? You think about that. Like, what am I being absurd? Like, what am I going to do? What am I just going to quit? Okay, if I'm not going to quit, well then well then I might as well just learn from it and keep going forward. It's the way it is. Robert, yeah. Adriana, haven't I sent you that link to the Rocky thing? It's not about how hard you can hit, but how hard you can get hit and then keep getting back up, right? That's this is something that you just what do you, I mean, if you really think about it, just think about it logically. Just think about it like, uh, what am I doing with having all this negativity about myself? Am I just gonna quit? If I'm not gonna quit. Okay, well then I'm not gonna be stupid anymore. Let me just keep going forward. And Adriana, I'm happy to see you here with us because it's. I mean, I've kind of been somewhat absent as of late, but it's good to. I'm happy, and I hope that you're with us more soon in the Discord as well. All right. Let's see. Let me just double check I didn't miss anything. Oh, okay. I understand, Sean. So like now, so having like that pleasant feelings almost like gives you fear. Like, oh, a manic phase is coming. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, that's a tough one. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Can you investigate how much can you in that see the manic mind is it's probably a lot harder to concentrate in the manic mind, isn't it? Is your mind jumping from one thing to another pretty quickly? Probably harder to investigate, isn't it? I'm falling apart today. I'm feeling a bit manic. I'm feeling like I have a lot of I didn't feel that most of today, but I'm right now I'm feeling like I have lots of energy. I shouldn't have said I'm feeling manic, but I'm feeling very energetic. So I have to when I understand like when I feel like that, especially when I was at Bhavana and I almost always had horrible energy problems. I was almost always kind of just like but sometimes I would feel energetic and I want to go literally running through the woods. And I have to be like, okay, calm. Don't waste your energy. Keep it there. So sometimes when I have, it happens when I share Dhamma, like a lot of times I just feel like things are flowing through me and I get this crazy energy that goes away once once the stream is over or once the talk is over. Yeah. When your mind is in that phase, it's very, very hard to investigate. It's very hard, very hard. But maybe you go through fate, and maybe there's like breaks that you can kind of like contemplate. Oh, look at like how my mind went from here to here to here to here to here to here. Maybe there's some breaks, some long breaks in between, even if it's just a couple minutes, where you can be like, oh, okay, I can investigate. All right, James. Amy, feel better. Be well. Be well, two of you. It's good to see you guys as well. Oh wow, we're up to 9:07 already. Huh. Ajan Rocky. I like it. Hey, I love motivational stuff. Yeah, like I love that kind of stuff. And Rocky has been a lifelong motivator for me. So it works for me. Ajan Rocky. Hello, Hassan. Welcome. I guess we're all caught up. All right. All right. So I guess we're all caught up, aren't we? In terms of questions. So maybe we can do a our guided meditation, and then afterwards we'll read from the Dhammapada maybe a little bit, and we'll call it a night. Oh, that's an interesting question. B. Is there a subject you would like to talk about but people rarely ask? Hmm. Hmm. People rarely ask. I don't know. I like to talk about I like to talk about the culture of the Buddha's day that you find in the suttas. Um, most people don't really ask about that, but a lot of people don't understand how the culture of the suttas helps you to understand the Dhamma better. Like you understand what the Buddha is talking about when you understand like the cultural context that he was talking about these things in. So I always love talking about that kind of stuff. Most people don't really ask those kind of questions. Um, Anything else? I mean, most people ask, questions about all the basic stuff. Yeah, I guess the culture thing is probably a good answer to that question. Oh, Jesus. Of course, Adriana has to bring up the 32 marks. No, that's the opposite. I don't want to talk about that at all. I don't know. Well, I mean, I mean, technically, no. I mean, you know, although in reality, that does fit within the topic. It really does, because this 32 marks of a great man is something that existed at the time in ancient India there. And whether it was the Buddhists or, after the Buddha passed on, and like 100 years after the Buddha, 200 years, there was this kind of invasion of Brahmins into Buddhism. Whether they did it or the early Buddhists did it to make the Buddha look even more you know badass for people to accept him. I don't know, but the 32 marks are an interesting phenomena. They are there. They exist in the culture. Um, and of course, there's all these conflicting things, because like the 32 marks, like like one of the marks is like you're like 10 feet tall or something like that. So the Buddha was supposedly like a 10-foot tall being. His his finger was such and such. Um, all of these things. But then you read the sutta where a king comes to the Buddha, like and he's trying to find the Buddha among all these other monks, and he can't find him. And well, so a lot of people will say, oh, well, this is because the 32 marks are like, psychic, and the Buddha can show them. Right. And of course, Adriana brings this up because during on our Discord community, when we read the suttas, we were going through the Samyutta. No, not the Samyutta. Where was that? Where we had this phase where the Buddha shows his tongue and his sheathed penis. Right? We kept getting through. He magically showed the Brahmin, right? So Adriana's like, of course we have to bring this one up. I have this like image of the Buddha, like that guy from Kiss, like Gene Simmons, I think is there, like the band Kiss, like the painted white, and yeah, it's like the tongue out, like the rocker. I guess it was in the Majjhima Nikaya. Maybe it was in the Majjhima Nikaya towards the end. I don't know. But yeah, like the 32 marks of a great man is a very interesting thing. Uh, um, I don't really think about it much, nor do I put much stock in it. I don't know. It's just there. It's not part of my culture, I guess. So like I don't really care. I don't need it. Um I don't need 32 marks of a great man to have confidence and faith in the Buddha, because I got it from his teachings. Um oh geez, Sean, I'm sure if you Google it you'll find it out. But like, yeah. I don't think I've ever Googled it. What does the Buddha look like with the 32 marks? Okay, I have to Google it right now. I have to Google it. Yeah, yeah. Let's see. Buddha 32 marks picture graphic. There you go. Let's see what comes up. Ah, nothing really that interesting. Maybe nobody wanted maybe nobody wanted to make a graphic of it. Yeah, I'm not going to worry about it now. And Douse has a new assignment. Oh god, I'm kind of afraid about what Douse is going to come up with that. Oh man. PGS says, could Bante talk about sense of humor and the practice? So, I think each individual, there's different proclivities, different tendencies. Um, some people are just more gregarious than others. Uh, but what I would say is that one of the marks that I found of somebody who has had um, somebody who has had progress and insight on the path is that they have a sense of humor, and because they don't take things personally as much as they used to, there's more. It's just more laughable. It's more fun. It's more. It's interesting. A lot of my gregariousness is not how I was in high school, not really how I was growing up. I mean, I guess in college I was a bit more gregarious, but a lot of my gregariousness is more since I've started practicing than before. When you, especially when you start to really understand anatta and you start to not take things so personally, either what comes up in your own mind or what people say or do to you. Um, things, it's yeah, like you say, lighter. It's you just have a lightness that allows you to see humor in more things, allows you to um, not suffer as much. That's the way it goes. For instance, I'll give you an example. Bante Analio. Bante Analio is a German monk. And so, like, the typical kind of like, at least in America, you think of Germans, you think of like very kind of like uptight kind of people. Um, and, that's kind of like stern. And that's kind of how like my perception of Bante Analio was until I met him, until he came to Bhavana. And within my first 5 minutes of interaction with him, he cracked a joke, and I was already smiling with him, and he was smiling, and I was like, oh, okay, this is interesting. Like you could tell, and like, but you see that like when it is a sign of, especially if it's wise joviality. Like if it's just like, oh, I'm gonna be just whatever, like a stupid joviality. If it's a wise, insightful humor and joviality, then that's definitely then that's an especially big sign to me that this person has experienced fruit of the practice. No, I'm not saying that there's sotipana or anything like this. Just like the practice has allowed them to let go of a lot of baggage, let go of a lot of their burden. So you're carrying a lighter pack. You still have a pack until you're awakened, but you're carrying a lighter pack. When I was a Samanera when I met Bante Analio, when Bante Analio came to Bhavana. And he walked in and I went and I bowed right down to him. And he says, "Well, we didn't even exchange what vasas we have." So that's like when monks come together. So you kind of know seniority and who bows to who and such. You say like basically how many years as a monk are you? Right? So Bante Inalio has, I don't know, 30, something like that. Um, and I'm just a Salmonera, so I basically have zero. So I just bowed to him. Because like at that point, I was just bowing to everybody. Now I have to ask because I'm actually meeting people who have less Vasa than me, which is still kind of weird. Um, I can't just assume I'm the least Vasa in the room anymore. But back then, I didn't have to ask. It was much nicer. I was just always the last one in line. I'd have to figure out where am I? Who am I? Am you before me? Me before you? What's good? I was like, oh, I just have to go to the back of the line, nice and easy. But but so yeah, he came in and he's like, we didn't we didn't find how many of us. And I said, Bante, I'm a Samanera. And he's like, well, you could have robbed me of the chance to pay respects. Or I did not I had not met a senior monastic who was like that. Like, who would say that? It's just like, it's like, oh, this is kind of, interesting. And then I said, well, Bante, Puja's over. And he's like, oh, I miss Puja? Great. And I'm just like, oh, I like this guy. It was just, and over the day and a half that I had with him, like, it was, he was kind of serious but funny. Like, it was a good, balance. And like you say, ah, yeah, he, like, he's a real practitioner. He's a, a serious practitioner. And when I've met people like that, because I've met a lot of monks, and not met a lot of monks are kind of a little bit too stern and serious. I mean, even when they don't have to put up an act for lay people. I mean, a lot of times you have to put up an act for lay people, but but even behind the scenes, there's not this kind of lightness. Um, so it's pretty obvious. Douse is very wise. The conditions for the right meme have not arisen in this case. When they arise, the meme shall appear. All right. Like one of the things that I've been told is that I'm a bit too jovial as a monk, and I get it. Um, it can seem a lot less dignified than it could be. Dignity is not my strong suit. I'm kind of like more like Ajahn Brahm in that regard. Like, you meet Ajahn Brahm and his robe is there and his gut is hanging out basically, and he just goes like, "Yeah, dignity's not his strong suit. He has strong suits, but dignity's not one of them." Right? And I'm kind of the same way. Like, I'm working on the whole dignity thing. Uh, Hopefully, it's as I become more of a senior monastic, I'll have more dignity. But we'll get there. All right. What wet blanket told me what? Oh, about oh, well, you know, there's a in the Sri Lankan and the Thai cultures and stuff like that, a monk is expected to be a certain way. And this is why I talk about even what I just said about putting an act on for the laity, right? You have to, in like a collectivist culture like you see in China and Thailand, like your behavior um shows, impacts the behavior of the group. Like in America, it's like, oh, these monks are good, but this one monk is an idiot. That's all. But in Thailand, it was like, oh, this one monk is making of all of us look bad, kind of a thing. Uh, so that is part of the monastic lineage, the monastic tradition, is that you are supposed to maintain the dignity of a monastic. And the different traditions have different views on what that dignity entails. Um, but that's why you don't see a lot of monks who are kind of like this gregariousness. Even if they are naturally gregarious, they're kind of trained not to be that way when they give Dhamma talks. And when I give Dhamma talks in front of all Thai people or all Sri Lankan people, I try to be more reserved. When I'm on my own live stream, I'm talking to, you know, Westerners and non-Buddhist people, I can be more myself. All right. Okay, guys, we got to do at least a little meditation. It's 1:30. So let's do like 25 minutes and then we'll do our closeout stuff. Let me just All right. Set yourself up in your comfortable and stable position, whatever position works for you. We'll briefly scan through the body, starting from the feet, going up to the head. Bring your awareness to your feet. By bring awareness, this means to come into contact, to investigate any sensations that arise. What is the feeling of the feet pressing against the floor? Investigate and bring your awareness to those feelings, those sensations, so that you can observe your posture and how the different positions of your body parts impact your posture. As you're scanning up through the body and you observe maybe how there's a small pain or how your body part's position is causing your posture to be imbalanced, well then simply adjust. It's better to spend some time before, at the beginning of your sit, adjusting so that you can sit for as long as possible without moving. So take the time now to observe and adjust your posture. Bringing your awareness up through the ankles into the calves. Up to the knees. Through the thighs. What is the feeling of the thighs pressing against the chair the cushion. How is the position of your legs affecting your posture? Bring your awareness up to your hips and pelvis. This is an important part of your posture for both the upper body and the lower. The position of your pelvis impacts your spine. Take some time to investigate this part of your body. Move your awareness up the spine, through the abdomen, the chest. To the shoulders, checking that they're hanging loosely. Down through to the elbows and hands. Check how the position of the elbows and hands affects your posture. And finally, bring your awareness up to your head, checking to see that the chin is parallel to the floor. The head is resting atop the spine. Check that your lower body, your upper body, and your head are in such a way that your breathing is not restricted. And then once you're done setting up the body in a comfortable and stable position, let the body go and take 3 deep breaths. And then let the breath go. From here on in, try not to manipulate or control the breath in any way. This body has been breathing from the moment you were born and will continue to do so until the second you die. It doesn't need you to do its job. Your job is to simply observe, investigate, and abide with the breath. Watch as this body breathes in. Watch as this body breathes out. As you follow your breath, you'll become distracted. Your mind will get bored and want to jump to the past or the future, across the world or the galaxy. Or an outside distraction like a sound will come. Whenever this happens, you'll start to have a dawning realization that you've been taken away from the breath. Your mindfulness will start to come back. So acknowledge that you've been taken away. Fully come back to mindfulness and awareness. Then practice letting go of the distraction by neither getting agitated and pushing it away, nor by getting excited and attached to it and thinking more about it. Simply try to let it go, give it no more energy, and then return to the breath. Whenever you're distracted away, acknowledge, let go, and return over and over. The breath is home base. It's always there, waiting for you, ready for you to come back and spend time there. Develop a calm, peaceful, tranquil mind, able to see things as they are. Acknowledge, let go, and return over and over. Every once in a while, check in with the state of your mind. Is your mind becoming more tranquil and peaceful or not? As your mind becomes more tranquil, more focused on the breath, you might begin to notice more subtle characteristics of the breath. Sometimes the breath is long and deep, sometimes short and shallow. See if you can start to observe and investigate how the breath is changing, how one in breath is different to the next one. Try to follow the breath as deeply as you can in all its subtleties. Slowly open your eyes, become aware with the room that you're in, the live stream. Move from the internal to the external. All right, friends. Oh, we actually gained. This is quite interesting. No, I guess we didn't. We lost. We lost a couple people, but we actually gained a few people during the meditation. Interestingly enough. All right, friends. Well, let's do business. Let's see. So we're back in business for Dhammapalooza. So next Monday, definitely be here, same place, more Dhammapalooza. Um, I'm going to be back into doing Ask Abantes for Wednesdays. So you look for those videos on Wednesdays. Morning monastery experience. I'm going to see how things go. I don't know. Right now, there's a bunch of monastics here, but in 2 weeks, it's just going to be me. Well, there's going to be an Aya. There's going to be a bhikkhuni who's here um, from Thailand. So it's just going to be me and Aya. And so maybe then I can do more things. We'll see what happens. But so morning monastery experience is on hold for now. Everything else is a go. And also, I've been roped into doing a bunch of Empty Cloud live streams. So I'm going to be on the Empty Cloud live stream like 4 times a week. The morning suttas, and the evening sessions, and not all of them. Thankfully, they have some probably more senior monastics than me doing some of the streams from different places. But I am going to be responsible for doing a bunch of that stuff. So I'm going to be very busy. I'm going to be very busy babysitting the monastery and doing lots of Dhamma work over the next 2 months. So, all right, friends. I guess that's that. So, if you are interested in an online community that studies and practices via the early text, the suttas, then you can check out our online community, the Maggaseka Discord. You can send an email to Adriana has posted the email if you'd like to join to ask for an invite. You can send it there, and I think we're good. So let's do our Shanghai Merits. Dukkha patta chane dukkha, bhaya patta chane bhaya, soka patta chane soka, hontu sabbe pipaniyo, etavata cha ammehi sampadang punya sampadang, sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya, akasatta jabumata deva naga mahiddhika punyang tang anumoditva charang rakantu sasanang. May the suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear-struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and may all beings find relief. May all beings share this merit of ours for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness. May beings inhabiting space and earth, devas, nagas, and yakas of mighty power, share in this dispensation, share in this merit of ours. May they long protect the Buddhist dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. All right, friends. May you have a spiritually successful and peaceful week. Sukhi Hotu, may you be happy. Practice well and be well. If you are new, you can, if you want to get notified when we go live and do all this kind of stuff, well, do the whole thing, click subscribe, click the bell, do all that stuff. You know the drill. Okay, friends, until next time.